So you guys been having a good time here at DC Week so far? Yeah? I know we also are aware that we're literally between you and cocktails.
Keep it
So I
lively.
think we're going to have a spirited discussion. Hopefully we'll uncover something insightful, and then we'll go and have a drink. So why don't we do quick introductions?
Yeah.
I'm Peter Corbett. I'm the CEO of iStrategy Labs. I am also the co-creator of DC Week. You probably see me running around. And
Jessica Taylor. I'm part of GE. I work specifically in the public affairs part here in Washington. So work with the corporate team in New York and Fairfield, but specifically focused on Washington communications.
awesome. So I'm assuming everyone here knows what GE is and does, yeah? No? Of course, right? What I find interesting, because we've been working with you guys a little bit, is how innovative you are with regard to your use of social media and content creation. What I want to understand is, and I sort of know the answer, but why? Why do you even care? Why do you guys want to create such incredible content? Why are you pushing the limits with regard to what a Fortune 10 or whatever might do?
Yeah.
with the
So
media?
so I'll give you two answers. One from sort of the corporate level, and then specifically, especially as regards to public affairs. So. In general, we just want to make sure that we want to get out there. We just want to make sure that people are, we're in every industry, and aviation, transportation, we affect lives on a pretty regular basis. And I think it's hard to understand that. And I think what we're trying to do with social media is give people the chance to see what we do and open the doors and sort of get out of our factories and sort of let you in and show what we're making, how we're impacting lives. GE working on a daily basis, sort of to help power and build and all those things. So that's what we're trying to do on a sort of corporate level. So we're using, we're on Instagram, we're in Pinterest, just really trying to drive conversation. We also want to hear how you guys are using the technology, what impacts it has on your lives. And then in a public affairs sense, that has a lot of impact on jobs and innovation creation around the world. Trade flows as well as how goods and services are being moved around the world. We're trading, and we're part of the global economy in a big way, and I think we want to make sure that people understand how good that is for the American economy as well as the global economy. So,
How many GE manufacturing facilities have you been to personally?
Personally, probably around 10.
Yeah. I think I've been to 2 now. I was at the research facility in India, and then recently the one outside of Berlin, which is a manufacturing facility for transformers or something. The reason I ask is because I'd never been in any kind of facility like that before. And what was interesting to me, not the technology, now that's totally fascinating, was the people.
Yeah.
So I walked into the one in Berlin, and there had to be probably 100 engineers there. And I got the sense that they just loved what they were doing. Right? And mind you, I hope that people here love what they're doing. But, I sit in front of a computer almost all day long, and my job is to email. These guys and gals are like hardwiring transformers and like soldering stuff and making the things that like enable our world. And you forget that people actually work with their hands in the physical world.
Yeah.
And I just love that. So what do you feel when you walk into one of those manufacturing
facilities? No, it's really, so I've been in the Cincinnati facility the most. Mm-hmm. And just going there and talking to the people who work on jet engines is just so cool, because I fly all the time. I was born overseas. My life has been on airplanes, and to see the people and how enthusiastic they are about what they make, and they want to tell their story. They want to tell how. I don't know if you guys saw the ads, the GE Aviation ads about people coming together and working on the different parts, and it's very much what happens on the plant floor, and even at all levels, be it the plant level or higher. It's just everyone's really excited about the technology that they work on. It's awesome. So around the world.
One of the things that resonated with me that you guys did, I'm assuming everyone here or some of you here are big into animated GIFs. It's a big deal. It's a big deal in our office. It's a big deal on the web. You guys did these animated GIFs of people working on the jet engines. Right? And so it'd just be like the subtle swinging back and forth of a jet engine while it's on like a hoist.
Yep.
Or like someone turning the
around.
screw. It's just like, it was beautiful. The imagery was beautiful. And you were inserting yourselves into that conversation that we have every day on the web. That's got to be, it seems like it'd be really hard to do as GE, but you're doing it? Or what are the challenges you're facing being in that conversation daily?
Well, So being in the conversation is just, well, it's just monitoring. I think it's, trying to find people who are excited about it. But what's so great about GE, and we're getting to a point now where we can't even, we're having a hard time managing. There's so many stories.
Sure.
There are so many stories by business, by country. Everyone, there are just, in that one plant, there are hundreds of stories that you could tell. And so now at this point, it's sort of collecting them and becoming this sort of content factory of how do we make the best stories rise to the top? Which ways do we communicate? What's most compelling? Who would like what? So we become this sort of content publishing machine because there's just stories coming from all corners of the world.
Now I'm going to assume there's not much like employee generated content, right? This is still managed by a communication shop within GE who has agencies and all that, right?
There's a lot of story mining. Like you gotta, I think that's one of the things that we as a function, both marketing and communications, are trying to get better at, is like, on a regular basis trying to find those gems and get a flow going, because we want it at all levels. We want people just to come with us. But at this point right now, it's a lot of sort of mining and building relationships and such.
You guys obviously have a corporate social media policy.
Yeah.
I would assume. Do like employees on the factory floor know not to tweet pictures of components? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. Well, so there are certain contracts that they sign that, and the security. I don't know about the facilities that you were at, but especially in the ones that have defense implications, national security implications, there's no phone. I can't even get into
the
some
India
of those.
facility. They had the little puffer devices to puff air on you to see if you have explosive materials or whatever. And as I walked through, I hit record on my phone so I'd capture that sound. And I wish I had it with me today. It's literally priceless because it's a robot voice and it's like saying proceed and you're fine.
Secret Service
it's really
types.
Cool. So what have you seen here during DC Week that has been compelling? You've been very active on Twitter, I think, for the past day or so or more.
Yeah. Well, so congratulations. This has been awesome.
I wasn't fishing for compliments.
No. I know. Just thought I'd throw it out there. No, this has been fantastic. It's been so interesting to hear about content generation, politics. I'm in the world of public affairs, so all the big data stuff that's been coming out on the elections has been really interesting to me, and so that conversation was fascinating. How media has evolved. One thing that I think I'd love to have it'd be interesting to have some other corporations come up here to hear about is that element of corporations becoming their own media companies, and how that evolution is. It's just growing. It's just this phenomenon, and we're all sort of getting within the company, us that are large enough to have sort of in-house folks. What does that look like now? 5 years from 2 years from now, 5 years from now, are we going to be publishing things? There was talk of sort of I function in the thought leadership space, and there's sort of nothing better than a magazine or the long form, and so does that implications that like we're going to be publishing things, and it has IP implications, and it's funny, our legal team hasn't even thought of us being as a publisher, but that's kind of how we're moving, and they get the social media space, but like writ large, that's sort of something that they have yet to grapple with. So it's this interesting evolution, and I thought that was really well captured on in certain parts of the conversation here.
You're a young person in the public affairs space in DC, and that space doesn't have all young people.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of old mentalities, right? So
sure
how much of a balancing act is there? Is like, did we get that op-ed versus did we get that tweet or that blog post? And is that mention on Meet the Press the big thing?
Yeah. So it's funny. So I work with a lot of really dead tree guys, people who love dead trees. They're just paper people.
I love live trees. I don't know about you guys. Living trees are amazing.
I love living trees. I want to save them all. No, but they really they have a hard time understanding even internal systems. It's been an evolution in our office. I think I've just tried to educate them that this is happening. And one thing that Gary Sheffer, who's the VP of comms for us, constantly says is if you're not there, someone's going to define you. If you don't define yourself in those places, someone's going to define you. So not new, not overly profound, but something that we have to reiterate consistently and constantly to these folks, because they kind of don't get it. If it's not printed,
didn't exist.
Yeah. but it did.
So this might seem like the throwaway question, but I think it's an important question. How then do you guys gauge influence, and how do you determine what to care about?
Yeah. So there's sort of three things that I try and measure. So especially in the public affairs space, it's who. So in DC, I think there's a wide range. Yes, there are some people who have they don't know how to Google anything. Half of those people are in my office, but no. But really, there's and then there's the folks who really have embraced it at a senior level, and so we really look for those folks to see if we can engage them, how we've engaged them. It's the what are we talking about? Like, is it about the fiscal cliff, or is it about something random that happened that day?
Are you able to say anything on the fiscal cliff? Is there?
So, what we're doing right now is Ideas Lab. So we have this website that we just launched called ideaslaboratory.com. It is a public affairs site that talks about sort of big issues that are important, big policy issues that are important to us. So we're really advanced manufacturing. So what does that look like policy-wise? The economy writ large and how it impacts business, and the fiscal cliff being sort of the biggest thing right now for business. Jobs and skills, and that was so much of the political conversation in town. So, how can businesses do a better job and working with the government to drive sort of fill the skills gap. So we're trying to have those conversations on Ideas Lab. We're hosting the platform and just having other people talk about it. And we want people to talk about it. The reason we created Ideas Lab was because we want to drive that conversation. I think in DC, business can be absent just because it's so touchy, and politics is so there's such a visceral reaction at this point. So Ideas Lab is that place where I think we're hoping that people can put their ideas, comment, engage, and really drive dialogue for business on issues that we usually normally stay away from.
I saw a tweet that is stuck in my head, which is that entrepreneurs are the new labor. That's the new movement, and that's the new mass movement of people that a lot of people are sort of catering to and trying to organize and cultivate and tap. Is that true? And if so, why? Why is this whole entrepreneurial movement that we're seeing, and you certainly expressed here at DC Week?
Yeah.
What is that about? Do you know?
So, I'm not an expert on sort of that segment and how much that's driven economy-wise. I'm not an economist, but I think we see the importance in how much innovation is brought. GE has we're trying to drive a lot of entrepreneurship and getting parts of our business to really to focus and drive things like a startup. And because it's efficient, it's scalable, and when scaled, it creates jobs and has a big impact. So on that level, I've seen it grow and work, and I think that the focus here on it being sort of the new labor, it just the potential, I think, is what people are excited about. I know less. So
yeah, I want to think more about it. It literally just stuck in my head and has been for months, and I think it's true, and that's probably what's stuck in my head.
Yeah,
because it just seems like there's this huge groundswell of entrepreneurship and innovation around the country, and
it's
like
awesome.
I said, you'll see it here. There's hundreds and hundreds of startups at DC Week and across the capital region. I'm not going to monopolize the questions. So, is there anyone out there that has a pressing question, an incredible question, or a mediocre one at least?
Take anything.
Yeah, because I'll keep going. So, who else out there, from a public affairs context or outside just a corporate context, are doing really good work the way that you guys want to be doing really great work with content and reaching new communities and just trying new things out? It seems like you guys don't mind trying out a BuzzFeed or a Tumblr or a new blog on WordPress or whatever it is, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, no one saw it, so we close it.
Tries it. Yeah. Well, we're always keeping an eye on what Siemens is doing. But
there's all GE lighting in here, by the way. Okay.
IBM does some really interesting stuff. I personally have always been really. Their Smart Planet, their Smarter Planet campaign was just. I remember seeing it, in college, and they've just done that so well.
$300 million helps. You run a great campaign for $300 million.
True. Resources are always good.
That's true.
Yeah, It's interesting. Different folks are doing different things. I mean, when the Healthy campaign for us was our first big venture into Facebook. We did around the Olympics, we did a Healthy Imagination campaign. And I know other companies, other consumer-facing companies. I mean, B2B is hard. I don't know if there's a whole lot of other B2B companies that are really sort of going after these social mediums as much as we are. IBM probably being the biggest one that comes to mind. But and then in the public affairs space, you know, people have tried different things. Boeing has tried stuff. Microsoft has tried stuff. But it's funny because I think and I've been having a few conversations around this. The sort of that, you know, DC is sort of steeped in the media and how that sort of the basic parts of media and so the Atlantic and I think Huffington Post have sort of moved us in that direction of digital media, and I think that's where business has the most potential. And so Boeing has had a few blogs, and Microsoft, and there's some forums that Siemens had, but. I mean, this is going to be the new space, I think, in sort of the public affairs arena as companies try and have conversations in Washington. It's going to be about sort of that neutral business voice talking about policies in a content way.
When you guys are planning a public affairs related campaign, are you planning traditional media as well? Do you still care? And is it print, or is there's television and there's radio in the mix still? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Cop out, but you know, sort of like big campaigns. I mean, global ones. Like, so we have a big play at the World Economic Forum, and we every year or for the past 2 years we've launched this innovation barometer, sort of a analysis of the perception of innovation around the world. And so there we try and, you know, we arm to the extent that we can our senior leaders to go out there on social if they want, harder because they're sort of old school. Beth's been out there in a big way. She's been great. Beth Comstock, our CMO. And then we do, you know, we tried iPad. We do a big web blowout. And then it's regular publications. And then we in the local markets, we push to regular media. So we do both. But we know that this is a growing space, and we need to do more in social amplification.
So who generated at least a mediocre question? Go ahead. Or a great one.
I have two related questions. So firstly, GE's business is a lot different from the companies you just described, like IBM, Microsoft, and Boeing.
Yeah.
They're in, if you say, they're in one line of business.
Yeah.
Boeing just makes planes, Microsoft just makes software.
Right.
GE is a conglomerate of multiple companies.
Yeah.
So your problem is more difficult than others. So is there a division within GE which is more susceptible to social media, and how do you measure that success?
Oh, that's really interesting. I think so. Our research center, the global research centers. There's multiple, 5, soon to be 6. They're the tech geeks that like come up with crazy concepts that are 15 to 20 years away from actually sort of going to market, and that stuff really is sort of tailored sort of to the social media, not intentionally, but they've been the researchers and scientists there have been blogging for 5 or 6 years or so. So they were kind of ahead of the curve in the social media sense. And they started doing, you know, when flip cams were still around, lots of flip cams into the labs, like showing the real science, just real raw videos.
Was that a recruitment play in the beginning? I would think that would be a great way to attract young engineers who are just graduating from, you know, electrical engineering schools or whatever.
Yeah, so I don't know whether that was the impetus, but I know that they used it for sure. But so that lends itself really well. And then, you know, I think different businesses have different metrics. I think, you know, again, we're a B2B. So at the end of the day, it's sort of how much does this impact reputation and then sales within the businesses. At a corporate level, it's, you know, it's about reputation and then engagement, the who, the what, sort of what medium. So I don't know. I mean, if you asked aviation and I mean, our home and business, sort of the guys that sell light bulbs and refrigerators and ovens, theirs is all about they're the only sort of real customer facing. So they have a very different metric than the aviation business. But at the end of the day, I think its reputation and sales. So.
I can speak to the aviation piece. We did a little work with GE Aviation. We built this real-time social media dashboard like what you see in Upper Town Hall here, the DCWEEK Twitter charting thing with the photos. And the reason they commissioned us to do that was because they wanted people to come to it's literally a 50-foot by 100-foot
This was a trade show,
expo,
right?
trade show at Farnborough in the UK in July. They wanted just to capture people's attention and keep them there, right? And they just wanted people in the booth to go, oh my God, that's an incredible new engine, and I'm, buying, right? Because that's what the trade show is about. So if you can hook people with something interesting and innovative and social and visualizing that conversation, you may not be on Twitter. You might be a 60-year-old procurement manager for Dubai. I don't know. But if you can use something to capture some of the attention, I think those business units are attuned to that. So that I thought was interesting. What else do we have up here? I think I saw a hand over here. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I wasn't. You guys are so shy. Go ahead.
You kind of alluded to this in your experience. How much of the PR kind of businesses generated were directed from the individual sort of sub-business units versus corporate TV?
By how many? Do you mean like?
I guess in terms of if you think about the total spend on advertising and marketing in general, how much of it's generated by GE Aviation says that a big push versus the corporate?
Yeah, so I don't know the numbers, but I would say GE corporate focuses on the big campaign. So the GE Works campaign, which there was a healthcare ad, and it was all about sort of the people and what we do and how we work. That's all the corporate messaging, and sort of obviously we work with the businesses to make sure that it's sort of a holistic campaign from all parts of the businesses, and then the businesses, obviously they input, they ask for our help depending on which event. But then they have their trade shows, right? They have their individual. They have their trade reporters even, and we don't get so involved. We sort of let the experts handle their individual businesses. So I don't know what the split is, but that's kind of where the line is drawn. Is sort of we handle the sort of the what you guys probably see on TV, and then they handle what if you went to a trade show or the sort of the business communications and such. So the GRC is the only sort of like blend, if you will, where. But we don't really advertise some of the we're some of that. So
what's the hardest thing about the public affairs role?
So there's just a lot of sensitive issues, and making sure that the government relations folks are they're on board with we have to work with them quite closely, and there's differing of opinions, and so it's kind of this nuanced dance that we have to do with government relations and communications. And I think it's sort of like any department, marketing, sales. People have differing opinions, but I think it's just it's magnified because it's DC and it's political. And
then what's the best part?
I'm kind of an international relations poli-sci nerd, so getting to see it play out here. Kind of cool.
So are we in for rocky shores in the next 3 months to a year? What do you see?
Again, I'm not an economist, nor I'm no Mike Allen, or
Nate Silver.
Or Nate Silver, yes, who I think won. Hashtag win. I don't think we're gonna drive off that cliff.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work to do. So just look for Ideas Lab. There'll be lots of discussion on Ideas Lab, hopefully.
So you're going to cover fiscal cliff stuff a lot on ideaslab.org?
Yeah, we'll do a little bit. We'll also talk about manufacturing, innovation, sort of this the economy is still, it's not stable everywhere. So we'll just make sure, we want to hear what people have to say. There's still the skills gap. The issues that were there 72 hours ago, still there. So not a whole lot changes, I think.
Would the issues have changed dramatically if Romney had won?
I think it depends. It depends on the sector. I think there were definitely, I don't know. There's I think differing opinions depending on your politics, but that's my political answer there.
All the way up top.
Peter, with that question.
So you know me, which means we had no plan. We were going to figure it out. Literally coming into the keynotes on Wednesday, we said, well, if Romney wins, X. If Obama wins, X. And X was, we'll figure it out when we get there. Both scenarios were, well, this is not a political conference. I think when we announced the dates early, what was it, January of this year, that we're going to do this and span the election, people were like, you guys are idiots. No one's going to come. I was like, yeah, out of 10,000 people, I think maybe 100 are affected from a professional point of view and will be out in the States or whatever. By the way, out in the States is my favorite phrase in Washington, D.C. I think it's awesome.
Well,
It's like out in the wild.
Within your department, was there going to be a whole new communications approach?
As I said, I think the issues that were there a week ago are still the issues that are there today. So, I'm not a government relations employee, so I don't work on the I don't lobby. I don't work on the Hill. So I can't really speak to that.
I wonder if the bigger change and therefore the pivot for a lot of people would have been if the House turned. Not that it was ever going to happen this cycle, but that's really the issue, right? That we've got a democratically controlled Senate and we've got a Republican House and we've got a Democratic president and we can't get anything done. So, good question. No, go ahead.
Jessica, I just have a quick question regarding where you said GE more involved with the community. Are you seeing a new interaction with customers and GE or just people where it's actually in the past you'd have people and then companies, but now it's more like a collaboration between general people interested in working with the company? It's like more of a
Are we affecting what you do and make, I guess, right?
perfect.
Yeah.
Your entrepreneurs
Anybody,
or
your
people?
customers, your entrepreneurs, people who might influence you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's great about our use. So, there are people focusing on how social media can help us better serve our customers. So 100% we're getting, I think, again, I'm not working in the businesses, but I think they're trying to figure out a way to figure out how better to communicate with customers to, make things more efficient, to make things more perfect the system, essentially, create more feedback. And then with general folks, I mean, I think, we have been, advanced manufacturing is one thing that we're going to be talking about a lot more, and sort of what does that mean? And, there's a lot of excitement around 3D printing and what does that mean for our research business? And I mean, there's a potential there to cut costs, but there's also really big IP concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Does that have national security implications if you can copy and paste a drone?
Jet
Yeah. So
I want to do that. I want to copy and paste a drone.
It's just one of those things that but that has big implications. So we just have to, I think one of the things that we want to do as people with a lot of expertise in making things, is have a conversation about what that is and what's the best way forward. And I think that's a lot has been driven from sort of the entrepreneurship community. So I know that we've been done a lot with Tech Shop and MakerBot, and so there's a lot of bottom line. Yes, I think so.
I have a very specific example. So I went to Berlin, right, and when we were there, I believe it was about 8 of your engineers hosted us. There were about 30 entrepreneurs that I was traveling with for about 2 weeks, and when we got to the GE Berlin facility, they had beer and schnitzel and kraut and such set up, which was awesome. But they had beanbag chairs and whiteboards and Post-it notes, and they said, talk to us as outsiders about this. And they'd say, how do we shorten the amount of time it takes us to go from X to Y? And we were just stupid entrepreneurs or smart entrepreneurs. We have no idea about the GE business, really. And we're just throwing ideas against the wall, and these engineers were like, oh my God, yeah, this is awesome. And if you know what engineers are like, if there are any engineers in the room, they just like big brains and good brains. And so we were just providing that input. I wouldn't say from a customer point of view, but like really innovative minds from the outside being brought into that context. They were like thirsty for it, and it was incredible. They didn't want us to leave, which was really interesting, and thankfully they had beer, kraut, and schnitzel, so we were staying. Go ahead.
Jessica, can you talk more about the GE international ecosystem? I imagine there are talented people all around the world and educated people. So you mentioned mentioned there are 5 to 6 research centers.
Mhm.
So where are they located and what are they good at?
So it's Munich, Bangalore, Niskayuna, New York. Sounds like a foreign country. It's not. Rio, and did I say Asia yet?
No.
There's one in China. So those are our research centers. They all focus on different things. They're obviously supporting the businesses. I can't tell you the breakdown of what India focus on versus China.
India is huge in healthcare. I know you saw some of
So
that.
the healthcare business, because of so healthcare is a focus there. A lot of energy stuff in Niskayuna. I mean, they all do, I think, a little bit for every business. Their emphases are different based on the market and what's the need. So we have a big healthcare department in India, so it makes sense that healthcare is sort of a big one. Energy in Niskayuna, because Schenectady is just down the street. It's the energy facility. Aviation is also sort of a mix of the different locations. I mean, I'd be happy to send you more information. I'm not doing it justice. But it's also on our website. If you go to the GRC blog, it'll give you a breakdown of what all the... their blog is fantastic. I'd recommend you check it out. It's edisonsdesk.com. And Edison's desk is in Niskayuna, which is actually really cool. And they list all the different types of sciences that they work on. Things that I don't even know how to pronounce. And it's just this in all the locations that are open. And so that you can see what researchers are working on in the healthcare, and they'll talk about it. And they'll actually, so we have this whole thing of Stump the Scientist. And so you can ask a question, some wacky question that you've thought of, why is the sky blue or something? And a scientist will answer it for you. So that's actually one way that we've tried to have social media engage with researchers and sort of open up again, sort of bringing science to sort of everyone, and allowing that expertise to sort of interact, as to your point, with the general public. So,
what's the most surprising thing you've learned about GE since working there? I mean, it's 125 years old, right? I mean, there's a lot that's
300,000 employees. I mean, I think it's just how big it is. Just how the things that we do, like what we make. I was in a meeting yesterday, and we have this guy who works on this solar facility, and it's it helps power turbines, and he's an entrepreneur in that, like, he's kind of a one-man show, and they've told him that he's going to run his business, and it's just going to be him. He's going to be a lean green machine, and it's just it's fascinating, and the markets that he's in, it's Morocco, and we're just it's just, I learn something new every day. There's always some piece of technology that I didn't know very much about that I got to learn more about because of something came across.
I always get stumped by that scale thing. 300,000 employees, right?
Yeah.
We did a little work with the Army. The Army is 1.4 million employees. It's the biggest organization in the world. How do you even... That's a whole economy in and of itself, right? Okay, so on that point, then how do you feel connected to the organization as a whole? Is it just the office? You feel connected to the DC office? Is it DC in New York? Do you have colleagues around the world? Do you feel like you really know them, or is it too big? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's kind of like having, you study abroad friends and your college friends, and it's that network. And I've been lucky that I was able to work in 2 locations outside of the U.S. for GE, but so I have some great networks out there, and and they've been really great to sort of pulse on sort of what's going on in that market, and just along the ways, I've been fortunate. Washington D.C., just because of the nature of its location, brings a lot of global folks, and even domestic. Sometimes it's hard to hear about what's going on in Houston, but because of our location, we get a good sense of what's going on, and I've been able to meet people. And so, much like keeping up with your friends, you gotta keep that.
So how many people do you think you know in GE? A couple hundred, 300, 400, 500?
If you looked at my LinkedIn, I think it'd be 80% GE people.
Is there an internal social network that you guys use?
Yeah, there is.
What is it?
It's called Collab, and it's pretty new, probably like a year old-ish. and it's kind of like a Facebook. It's got a stream, sort of a feed, and they have some document sharing, and it's growing as a tool. I think it's probably the best thing that we've had intranet-wise, and I think there's some change management that needs to happen as people.
Good old change
management. But yeah, I think that's something that people will. We need to be more nimble, and so we have to integrate those systems into.
Do you know what it's built on?
I don't, but I can find out.
It's like, what else do we have out there? Oh, go ahead.
I was wondering, do you have any programs that come to mind for young people, high schoolers, college, that you could share with us a little bit? I work in the school system in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
We're always looking for like school to work connection, or volunteer school to work connections, career possibilities for young people.
Yeah. So I can sort of speak to each level almost. So we do some work in the DC area. That we have a G volunteers program. So volunteers from the different offices. We have an office in Bethesda and an office in DC. Will go out and volunteer at different events. We have the GE Foundation, which is a separate entity that works with organizations and provides different sorts of funding depending on how they're aligned with our businesses. And so we're big on STEM education. And then also for military folks, we're doing a lot to bridge the skills gap. So Get Skills to Work is a new initiative that we partnered with NAM and a few other organizations, Boeing, to help folks who have just left the military to give them the skills to go to work. And then post-college, throughout college, different businesses have different internships. And then post-college, there are a slew of different programs that help funnel people into jobs within GE. So there's an engineering program, there's a finance program, there's a marketing program. I actually went through the marketing communications program. So, GE really likes to invest in their people. They have this institution called the Crotonville, which is like the first corporate university. And they bring people there, external and internal, to train them, connect them. I mean, that's how I've met.
Is that a Jack Welch innovation? Or was it before him?
I think it was before. I think it was the 40s it was created. Yeah. 40s or 50s. But so yeah, there are things out there. I'm happy to look into other things that are happening in the area.
Have you guys done anything with First Robotics, which is Dean Kamen's?
First, I haven't heard of.
Do you know about First? You should check out First. If anyone in this room has not heard of First, check it out. Dean Kamen, who invented the Segway and the insulin pump, and is essentially my hero, created this organization where high school kids compete in teams to build robots of a specific type, right? And so they have a very strong DC chapter, and they had a convention probably about 6 months ago or so, and the robot theme was a robot that could shoot basketballs into a hoop, and it was incredible. So, I have a small company. We're 23 people. I'm hoping that once we get a little bit bigger, we'll start to be able to field teams and sponsor teams like that. So I'd encourage you to check out First, because it's really, really terrific. So if kids are more interested in building robots than they are being a basketball player, for example, I think we'll be better off.
And then
My humble opinion.
One more thing is that there sometimes. So I think last year we had an event. GE Works, this big event where we brought in a bunch of technology and some social interactive stuff, and we brought kids from different school systems to interact. And we'll likely, if we do another event in DC with sort of similar interactive abilities, we'll likely do the same thing. So I'm happy to take your information so that we can incorporate you, because we like to give back. I mean, if we're going to bring technology here, we might as well share it. So we'd be happy to do that.
So maybe one more question, because I hear people starting to chat out there. Maybe the drinks are getting served soon. Go ahead.
Jessica mentioned earlier that GE likes to invest in its people. I have a friend who has worked for Motorola for the past 20-something
I mean, engineers are so core to what we do. I don't think that they. Yeah, no, but I mean, we need engineers to make jet engines and trains and most of the things that we. Not that motor, they need engineers too, but I think that it's the bread and those big industries are our bread and butter, and so I think that the engineering programs that right out of college, those mentoring programs, I think I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of change in the future, just because without them we wouldn't have.
I think if you look at like GE versus Motorola, not that most people do that, you can just see in the way that they do marketing and communications, especially Motorola had always been like the glitz and feature focused, right? And you could think back, maybe the Motorola Razr was when they really lost their way. And GE, when you look at their campaigns, it's very like their people focused. So it's the engineers themselves that they're celebrating and trying to highlight their expertise in content. And so maybe that's indicative. I mean, maybe there's a case study there when a technology company stops celebrating the people that make the technology and starts celebrating the technology, they may be losing their way. I think that's fascinating. Thank you guys so much for your great questions. And Jessica, thank you so much for a great discussion.
Thanks for having me.
In about 15 minutes, I think Tech Cocktail's getting started, which will be in the Terrace Gallery upstairs if you were in that room before. So I'd say hang out for a little bit and stick around for some drinks. Thank you.